Hi, how you doing? I'm Peg Fitzpatrick, and I am starting a live. It's one of my pop-up live series, and today I am going to speak with my friend Michelle about podcasts. And she wrote this amazing book called How to Get on Podcasts, and it's I'm letting her in right. I was saying Michelle wrote this great book, How to Get on Podcasts. And this is how oh, here she goes. Hello.
Hi, good
How you
morning.
doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. I was just showing everybody your awesome
Thank
book, which
you.
which is getting light from it's getting its little spotlight from my ring light. So I met Michelle because of this book, How to Get on Podcasts. And Michelle and I both had a similar little bump in our publishing, our writing careers when McGraw-Hill closed down their publishing, their business books section. And we were both authors in that section. So, see, hi, Sandra. My friend Sandra, who was on a previous show, is already asking us podcast questions. So, great to see you. Great to see you face to face, Michelle.
You too. I know it's nice for a Tuesday. It feels like a Monday though.
I know. Well, we're still in a coma from last week. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, Sandra. Sandra's also in a coma from last week. So, Michelle and I both were kind of vocal. You were even more vocal than I was on your social media, and I think that was important for us to do that. So, uh,
Yeah, I'll continue being vocal and I think it's good to let people know where you stand and then it's not a surprise when you do tell them.
right. And honestly, if they don't agree, then it's totally fine if they don't want to follow me.
Yeah,
That's how I feel.
exactly.
So, which is sad because honestly, I'm really not someone who likes to talk about politics all the time, but now we have to.
Because it goes so far beyond.
It does.
But that's like a whole other
I
IGF.
know. Wait, we got to stop talking about this. We're talking about podcasts today. So we are on an Instagram Live to talk about podcasts, a little bit meta. Do you want to tell a little bit about your background first, to like how you you
Sure.
have a PR background, correct?
No, my real background is selling jet fuel to corporate flight departments for 18 years. So
Totally,
it
totally
sounds
has
like
to do with podcasts.
it doesn't. Well, podcast didn't exist when I was in
Mhm.
college, so this wasn't even a career path that I was going to be able to take.
Nope.
Um, because I literally graduated before the first podcast launched. So I'm dating myself, which is fine. But what I've realized is that they do relate to each other because they're all relationship based. So
Mhm.
what I do now is all about relationships with the clients, with podcast hosts. And what I did for 18 years was all about relationships with selling jet fuel and keeping those clients. And some of them are still friends to this day, totally unrelated. So that's really my background. My degrees are I have a bachelor's and a master's in law because I wanted to be an attorney.
Mm.
Sounds unrelated, but as a business owner, you have contracts. So it's very related and relevant.
Yeah.
And I was laid off, and I had two little tiny people at home, and I decided I wanted to do something job wise that would make the world feel like I was making it better for them. And
Mm.
that's when I discovered podcasts and the fact that they are free to listen to, that you can be educated, entertained, you can hear a story from someone, you can build empathy. They truly, I believe, change the world. They make it a better place, which to me means that I'm doing something that's going to benefit my kids in the long run.
I love that. Except for I was going to say Joe Rogan's podcast.
Oh yeah, I don't listen to his.
I don't listen to him either, but I know that it's things that well, anyway, we're going to get
It's a
down
blessing
another,
and a curse. Podcasts are a blessing and a curse, whether it's
yes.
hosting one or being a guest on one, because literally anyone can do it.
It's totally true. So what drew you into the world of podcasting and earned you the title of the podcast matchmaker? You kind of went over that already. What drew you in?
And really it's all about the relationships is what made me the matchmaker. Is I'm good at listening. I listen to clients, I listen to the stories that they share, and then I pull out from it, this is what you should be talking about, this is really interesting, and this is how it relates to you. And whether there's a story that might not seem like it relates to whatever you're selling, we can always tie it back, because the whole point of a podcast is an interview is to really allow people to hear in your own voice, your own words from you, so that they can fall in love with you and then want to work with
Mhm.
you, buy your book, your product, your service, without making it a sales promotion and that sort of a thing.
Right.
So it's between that and then listening to the shows that we pitch to, and listening to who are the hosts trying to target as their ideal listener, what's the goal of their show, and recognizing when to bring the two together.
Mhm.
That's what makes me the podcast matchmaker, and why I love podcasts.
So just for people who are listening, in case you haven't, if you're not already connected with Michelle, she has a podcast, but she also has a business called MLG Collective, where she actually works with people and does podcast tours and helps them be a podcast guest. So she has two different things related to podcasts. So
Yes, I
just
come
to
at
make sure.
from both angles. Thank
Yes,
you.
all over the place. So why do you think guesting is such a good way for people to build their brand?
Because it allows you to really, it allows people to get to know you, and it allows
Hmm.
you to share your story. I think it's so powerful for someone, a business owner, a nonprofit organization, to share why they're doing what they're doing. Why
Hmm.
is it important to them? Why do they get up every morning wanting to do the work that they do? Why did they write the book that they wrote? And for someone to listen to that why behind it, is it could be that one little thing that makes someone want to connect with them further, wants to buy whatever it is that they're selling.
Hmm.
And then at the same time, it allows that business owner to grow their platform, grow their audience, reach more people, and then create more marketing content for their own brand in the end. And I know that we're going to get to talk about that too, but
Hmm.
to build on the content that they have to market their business, it's a great way to let people know that you're out there and who you are and what you stand for.
I also think now that I'm doing my own podcast tour. I also think it's really great when you're a guest, when people ask you questions from a different perspective too. It helps you rethink what you wrote and what you think about things. And maybe they're asking you something that you hadn't really, thought about before. You have like a good twist or new perspective on it. I
Yeah.
think that's interesting
Yes.
too.
People have asked me about my book. There's certain things, and oh, this is more than just podcasts. I'm like, it is. And I've had to reread the book myself to go, oh, I do bring up some other points in here.
I could also reread my book. So, what are some surprising benefits to being a podcast guest versus having your own podcast?
It's that timing wise, it's so much easier to guess than it is to create your own show. And being on both sides, I know this, because to
Hmm.
have a show, you're hosting it, and not just as the host like this, but hosting it on a platform like Libsyn to pay for that. You're paying for it. You are having to show up every single week. If you're a guest, you can schedule your interviews when it works for you, versus when you're a host, you have to commit to, is it every week? Is it twice a month? How often are you showing up? And you have to show up because
Hmm.
listeners notice.
Yeah.
You have to keep creating content out of it. And then you have to, once you've recorded it, that's not the end of it. You have to create your show notes and all of your social media postings, and you have to market it and grow the audience. Whereas a guest is showing up and they're getting that warm audience. And of
Hmm.
course, you do need to share it as well and repurpose it. But the big difference is that you're growing an audience as a host versus coming into an already established audience as a guest.
It, re- it reminded when you were saying it of like the difference between being a dinner host and a dinner guest.
Yes.
Because one, you're
Prepping that
doing
meal.
Yeah, you're doing all the work, and the guest just can show up with some flowers and say, "I can't wait to have this great meal." There's a big difference,
Yes.
and you can't have one without the other. I mean, you could eat dinner alone, but like and some podcasts don't have guests on them. The
Right.
the host does everything, but then that truly is all you still have to have a lot to
Yes.
say. So.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be a good talker to yourself.
Which is hard, like doing it, doing a like a live stream by yourself versus having a guest. I used to do a series. It was a Thanks a Latte series I did every Friday for years on my Facebook page. And that was just me, and then talking to people in the comments and stuff. Like you're really just on, and you could choose to like ignore the comment kind of things, but it's just you with no feedback, and you know It's a little
Yeah,
bit
it's weird.
weirder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's awkward. So for those people thinking of starting a podcast, what's the first thing that they should focus on if they want to start one?
What do you want to talk about? Like, what is the point of your show? You really,
Right.
what do you want to talk about? What's the point, and what kind of content can you create from it? I would suggest that you start writing down what kind of episodes you're going to have. What are the topics that you're going to create and talk about? Because, like I said, you have to show up every week. And most
Hmm.
podcasts are weekly. So that's 4 episodes a month. What are you going to talk about? If you're going to interview people, who are you going to interview? And what are you going to talk about? Again, the blessing and the curse of anyone can have one, but does everyone need to have one? Probably not.
No.
uh, that would be step number one. And then you have to establish what platform are you going to use. There's Spotify for podcasters, Libsyn. There's a bunch of different platforms, and you will have to establish one of those and pay for them in most cases. Are you going to do video and audio or just audio? I highly suggest that you create a process for these are the steps that you're going to take every single week so that eventually you can farm out, the editing if you want to, or the social media aspect of it, and create a process of I'm going to record an episode. From there, how do you do your show notes? How are you going to edit it? How are you going to create social media? Do you have templates for it? Link to all of those and create a process document. And really, I started this when I started my show is I created this document, and as I did each step, I documented it.
Hmm.
So I can hand it off, if necessary, but then it also makes sure that everything will be uniform and consistent. I use Trello. I know you're a big Trello board fan
I love
too. I
Trello.
love Trello. All
there's
hail
there's a
Trello.
lot of there's a lot of pieces for the show. So you have the recording, you could have audio and video, you have to have great titles that tell people what it is and have like SEO search in there, and then your descriptions have to be really great. So there's a lot of thought processes besides just I think I'm going to record something, and then like you were saying, do you have ideas for the show? When you're really thinking about the show, you got to check and see, is there already a podcast with that name and theme?
Right.
Because there's a lot of podcasts in the world
There's
now. A
so
lot.
much. One of my favorite shows on TV right now is Only Murders in the Building.
Hmm.
And I cringe over their podcast part because I'm like, no, you don't just pull out your phone and record here and then pull out, your actual studio setup over here, and you just plug away, and these people don't have a website. I'm like, this isn't real life at all.
I know. It's real. It is funny. Like they just pull out their little phone and record a quick note, and then later they're
They've
using the
got the boom
headsets and
mic.
everything. It's like
Yeah.
your sound is gonna suck. And who edits them? Like is it
Right.
Selena? I mean, what's going on
Yeah.
there? So it's a pretend podcast, but I would listen to Steve Martin. He's so funny. I do love it. Are you watching the other podcast show with Kristen Bell? Have you watched that one yet?
No.
Never. Oh, I'm going to send you a link to it. I can't think of the name of it. It's like I have to think of it.
I'll
It's Adam
look
Brody.
it up.
I cannot believe you haven't watched it yet. It's so good. It's based on a real life podcast that two sisters have, and it's hysterical. The show is hysterical, and that's all they do is their podcast in
Oh,
LA. So,
good. I needed a
um,
new show to watch. So perfect.
yeah, it's great. You're gonna love it. So the little podcast TV show. I'll put when I save this and I'll put it in the comments what show it is. So what is the secret to making a podcast appearance unforgettable? If someone
Really, to
is a guest.
give as much of yourself as you can. Give
Hmm.
as much knowledge. Share everything that you know. Uh, when I first started out in the online world, I heard Amy Porterfield say, "Give as much as you can for free," because it will have people walk away saying, "Well, if she gives this away for free, imagine what she's going to give you when you pay her." And I've
Right.
always taken that to heart. I will give away everything. I will tell you how to do everything by yourself for free.
Hmm.
Come to me and I will just do it for you. And so it's like you get that, even better. So share yourself, share your story, share how you can get buy the book for $19 right now on Amazon. But
But for real, Michelle's telling us a lot right now. I did read this book cover to cover, and it does tell you everything about how and why to get on podcasts. So this is just a little teaser, but you can get Michelle's book and get the whole thing. And I highly
everything, yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah. I just give as much as of yourself. And that's what's really going to reap the rewards and the benefits later.
I recorded a podcast earlier today where I was a guest, and she was like, "Just we have only 10 minutes, but try to throw out as many sound bites as you can." I'm like, "Wow, like way to." I didn't say it, but I was like, "Wow, way to like freeze my brain." Like no
That's
pressure, just make
tough.
make really great short sound bites, and it'll just be a conversation. And I'm like, "That's 10 minutes. Like that's."
Oh,
I
that
mean, I'm
gets
glad it was
in your
10.
head, but that's
Hmm.
tough. You get in
I
your head,
know.
you're like, oh, what would sound good? Yeah, that's tough.
Hmm. It is. But some authors, though, stick on a very tight theme for their book.
Mhm.
They do like they'll create a speech for that book, and it would be just on that one topic. The speech would be exactly the same, and then they have like three maybe points that they would be making over and over again. So if you were Simon Sinek with Start with Why, that's what you would be talking about, and you would probably have your sound bites like nailed in your head. So you could always break your book down and get some sound bites out of it so you could repeat them, but I didn't do that first. So it was just my random thoughts, which hopefully were good. But um, okay. So how can podcast guesting help build credibility and thought leadership, which is important for book sales?
Well, the fact is that podcast hosts are a very trusted source.
Hmm.
Listeners show up every week because they trust the host and what they're saying. So that trust is automatically extended to the guest, which is a huge deal. It's not like you're going into a cold sales call where you have to earn, this is who I am and prove who you are and what you do and why you're trustworthy. That's automatically being granted to you by being on a show. So
Hmm.
that's a huge benefit for you to come on and to automatically receive. Um, to be the expert, you are the expert. You have been asked to be on to discuss what you know. And so automatically you are the expert in those eyes, and you become the thought leader because you keep showing up. People are going to see that over and over you're on shows talking about the same thing. So you must know what you're talking about because all of these hosts trust you to speak on this topic. And that's really the best way to explain how you become the expert, the thought leader when it comes to these podcast
Hmm.
appearances.
Because you and I both know, I mean, it takes a lot of work to write a book, and to get your book published is another big thing. But then the publicity piece of it is huge because it's you, people.
Yeah, it
It's
is all on
you.
you.
It's all on you unless you are a massive, huge writer like I don't know. Who would I think of that would be like definitely has like book tours and like Emily Henry. If you're Emily Henry, she's got a team, she's got publicists, she's got people, and she's going to have the live book tours. Book tours are another thing, like an actual in-person book tour, also up to you. So you're
Mm-hmm.
paying for the travel, you have to make all the arrangements. So podcast tours are a great way to do things from home and also reach tons of people. So,
Yeah.
do you have any quick tips for preparing to be a guest so you can make the most of your time in the spotlight?
Always listen to the show that you're going to be on before you're on it. You should be doing that
Mhm.
before you even pitch yourself to be on the show. But it's always a good refresher, especially if you're doing a lot of appearances, a lot of interviews, to just listen quickly to an episode, get a feel for the host and what they say. And maybe they have a question at the end of every episode that they always ask. And it's very noticeable if you haven't listened to the show and they ask the question that they always ask, be prepared.
Mhm.
I always say you don't have to listen on one time speed, speed it up, make it two times so it goes quicker, but at least listen to an episode to be prepared. If
Mhm.
they've chosen a topic that this is what you're going to speak on, in general, you will know what you're talking about, but maybe it's on your book versus your business versus your personal journey, depends on what you've pitched. So make sure that you show up and you're ready for whichever topic you're going to discuss. Be camera ready. If you don't know whether or not the video is going to be on, you at least want to show up presentable because you're going to be talking to another person.
Right.
And really remember that it's just a conversation with one other person. So you don't have to be nervous about it. It's like you're showing up for having coffee like we are right now. Like it's not a big deal. Just converse with the other person.
It's not a big deal, but it's just being recorded and it will be on the internet
Yeah,
forever.
don't
But
think about all the
it's
millions of
totally
peoples it could reach.
fine.
Peoples. I just said peoples. Uh, it's totally okay. And most things are, they edit them. Unlike
Yeah.
this, which is live, the rest, most podcasts are edited, so
Yeah.
things can be taken out.
It's true. It's true. How can a small business repurpose podcast content across their channels? So if a small business owner is on a podcast, what can they do to make sure they share it smartly?
There are
Really?
so many ways. Download a transcript and look at the quotes that you've done. Look at the what have you said that you could pull out to make social media graphics. Create a blog post out of it, which essentially is like show notes. A paragraph of this is what we talked about. What are the main talking points? And then embed that podcast player. You can go to Spotify. They've got the three little buttons. You right click. You copy a code. You just paste it onto your website. So now people can visit your website, they can see where you've been, they can play the episode while reading your blog post, create social media graphics that have the cover art of the podcast to share where you've been. Tag the host because then they're going to share it as well. And it becomes that ripple effect of more people seeing it. Pin it on Pinterest. I know you're a fan.
Hmm.
Put it on all the social media places because not everybody's showing up in the same places. Not everybody's going to see your post because of the algorithms, but post it. And, if you're pulling out different quotes of yourself, then you can repost the same episode, but using different parts of what you talked about over and over again and do it not just when the episode comes out, but wait a few months and do it again because it's going to become evergreen content that you can continuously promote for yourself to show people where you've been.
I've been creating multiple pins and then with different Pinterest titles, different Pinterest descriptions. And I have a board where I'm putting them and I'm putting them on other boards too. But I have a podcast only board for just the episodes where it's like my podcast tour board.
Yeah.
And those pins are actually doing really well already. So I'm doing like clips that some hosts send you like clips and graphics
Yes.
and but yeah, so just have a place where you can put them all.
Yes. And just share and tag.
Share and tag for sure. For people who are feeling nervous about being on a podcast, what's a confidence boosting tip that you have?
Breathe. Um, my biggest tip is to really listen
Hmm.
beforehand. Get to know the host. Go to their website, read their about page, go to their social media, find something out that they share that's personal because then you know something about the host
Hmm.
and you can bring that into the conversation. Hey, I noticed this. I noticed that you wrote a book and I noticed that your editor, was my agent. Oh, that's so great. We have this in common. Yeah.
That was a secret. You know what? Another really weird thing. Michelle and I both have the same blog theme,
Yes.
which don't go look it up because it's just ours, but it's a really good blog theme and they look amazing and they look different, even though we have the same one because
Right.
our
Because we
colors are
changed
totally
it.
different
Right.
because we changed
But I mean,
it.
these are conversation things. Yeah, we didn't copy
Yeah.
and paste it and just leave it. We changed it.
Hmm.
But to know these little facts about someone else, I think that brings a comfort level too. That you show up and you know the person more than just hitting record and going, "Oh, hi, how do you pronounce your name?"
And that is, when you're listening to their podcast, you do get that naturally. There was one podcast that I was on and I was totally excited because she was from my hometown, Rochester, New York. Shout out to Rochester. So it was really
I'm
like
there
that
on
was like our
Thursday.
oh, you're going to
I'm
Rochester?
flying into Rochester on Thursday. Yeah,
For
but I'm
what?
going to Syracuse
Um,
for yeah. And I'm just flying in because
yeah.
Southwest, yay. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
Syracuse
speaking
is
at
so great.
the public relations Northeast conference.
Awesome. You're not that far from me. I wish I knew. What's next Thursday? I'm going to look at that because Syracuse is not, I'm trying to think how far that is. Probably 4 hours. It's kind of a lot.
Oh,
I'll check. But anyway, I love upstate New York because I'm from Rochester. Anyway, she was also from Rochester, so it was like really fun to talk to her. So, and what do you think is the biggest podcasting challenge? What is like a hard thing about the whole, if people are just getting started and they're just like, I'm not sure if this is a good idea.
on the hosting side or the guesting side?
We'll say guesting because this is to go with your book.
Yeah, the hardest part would be that people don't know which podcast should you reach out to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big one. Or what topics should I pitch to
Mm-hmm.
to be speaking on? And I think if you really need, there's time. Time is involved. There's homework involved on your end
Mm-hmm.
to research the podcasts that you think are a good fit for yourself. But first, identify who is it you want to reach? Who do you want to talk to? And
Mm-hmm.
then go look for shows who are already talking to your ideal listener, and go that way, and then make sure you listen to the show so you can personalize your pitch and make unique speaking topics. Don't just say I can talk about marketing. uh it's make it very unique and specific to you. Make sure that they take guests. Make sure that they haven't just covered your topic already and recently,
Mm-hmm.
and get personal in your pitch of this is what I'm going to bring to your audience and why your audience is going to benefit. Don't make it about you. We all know this is about you. We know that the interview is to interview you. So don't come off as this is about me. This is about my book. This is about my service, my product, my business. No, this has to be about what you're bringing to the audience and why is it going to be beneficial hearing from you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, what's one podcast myth that you would like to bust?
Uh, there's so many. No. that the the thing that I cringe with is that there's no standard. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
we need to create a standard, whether that's in the pitching part and making sure that copy and paste is not okay. You don't copy and paste your pitch. That not sharing and simply showing up and recording the interview is all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all you have to do. You need to share it. You need to thank the host by sharing it. You need to repurpose it.
Mm-hmm.
Showing up and being interviewed is not going to move the needle on your business,
Mm-hmm.
period. You have to repurpose that content. You have to let people know where you've been because it's beneficial to your audience as well. You don't know who is silently watching you and waiting for that little
Mm-hmm.
nudge to work with you or to buy whatever it is you're selling. And it could be because now they've heard you in your own words on a specific show that's going to push them over to work with you, to reach out to you. But how are they going to know if you don't share it? So I think the myth of just showing up is a big one.
Yeah, it's not just the podcast recorded. There's more work for you guests. So, Michelle, you can find Michelle's book wherever you like to get your books. How to Get on Podcast, and the longer subtitle is Cultivate Your Following, Strengthen Your Message, and Grow as a Thought Leader Through Podcast Guesting. Excellent book. I love it so much. So, you guys should get it. And you can get it with my book, The Art of Social Media, Art of Small Business Social Media. A fantastic combination. You can be on the podcast and then you can know how to share it afterwards.
Yes.
So, thank you so much. A million thank yous for spending your time and coming on here live. I'm so excited that we did not get cut off the last two shows. Instagram Live just
I
stopped
saw that.
when we weren't done talking. I was like, okay, I guess we're done. So this one will be all in one. So I will be making this in the spirit of repurposing. This will be on my Instagram profile, but I will also make a longer video, a blog post, a podcast, and tons of social for it. So this is not all, people. There's more. There's always more work to do to share your message with people. So I appreciate everybody who watched live, and thank you so much. And thank you to you, Michelle, for spending your
Thank
time with
you,
us.
Peg. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, super fun. Now I'm like, now I have 85 more things, so I will text you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.